Hey, I'm Alpha, and here's my 5-minute take on the world as I start the clock for you right now and say thanks for listening and or watching wherever you may be around the globe. That is certainly appreciated, as are your thoughts and comments and ideas and suggestions, and if you like what you see, pass it along to your friends. I'd appreciate that as well. I'm going to talk about one of those comments here in just a second. I mentioned it briefly in yesterday's 5 minutes, and it regarded the previous day's 5 minutes, and if that's not all too confusing, we'll get into it in just a bit. First, the brain stretcher question for you to get the brain going. Women were surveyed in America. I don't know if it's single women, married women, attached women, loose women, whatever. Women said this is the number one thing they would like to have. What do you think they said? Ladies? Gentlemen, if you're thinking about this, it might not be as material a thing as you might be imagining. We'll have the answer for you in just a few minutes. All right, that comment from Blue Steel, a YouTube subscriber, who liked my thoughts, and I think that particular 5 minutes was about Michelle Obama and her opulent vacation, sort of flying in the face of all Americans who can't even afford their own vacations right now, yet they're paying for hers. And he liked what I had to say. He thought there was great wisdom in it, but he said in the long run it really doesn't matter. The crux of what he had to say was, we have no say-so anyway. There are people pulling strings and making decisions that affect us, and they don't care how we feel about it. And to a great extent, he's right, and I've been thinking about that. And he cited BP and Al Gore and global warming and the mosque in New York City. And I thought about that, and in particular the mosque in New York City. I mean, I don't know if you know this story. Surely you do by now. They want to build a Muslim community center just blocks from ground zero. And there are millions of Americans, and especially New Yorkers, who remember exactly what happened on that day, September 11, 2001. They can remember to this day the very smell, the sounds, the sights of what happened. And they don't want a Muslim community center just blocks from where that disaster occurred. And I say disaster because it was a disaster of titanic proportions caused by Muslims. Yet the imam who wants to build that Muslim said, our American policies were partly responsible for it, that we caused our own terrorist attack. He won't renounce Hamas as a terrorist organization, and right now is flying around the globe, in particular to the Middle East, to try to promote and get understanding for American culture. Well, this is a man who believes that we're responsible for our own terrorist attack, that we caused terrorists to attack us. What is he going to say about our culture that's going to do us any good? And oh, by the way, you're paying for it. Yeah, the American government, taxpayers' dollars are paying for him to do this. Mayor Bloomberg says it's the right thing to do. He says we need to reach out to the Muslims in understanding and tolerance. You know, they throw tolerance at us a lot. But let's talk about tolerance for a second. If I were to fly to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, would you tolerate me bringing my Bible? No. If I were to walk in the streets of Mecca right now, as a Christian, would you tolerate that? No, because only Muslims are allowed. Would you tolerate me as a female walking down the streets of Kabul with a man who was not a relative? No, you don't tolerate that either. You just go ahead and beat her. And in Tehran, would you tolerate me crying rape unless I had 4 male witnesses to testify that yes, I was indeed raped? No, you wouldn't tolerate that either. So while we're talking about tolerance, why don't we talk about that going both ways, huh? And I don't know, Blue Steel, maybe you might be right. As we look around the globe, we're helpless with a lot of things. The climate, for example, here in the southeast, and we've had 90-degree temperatures now every day for I don't know how many weeks. Meanwhile, though, in Southern California, they can't get fruits and vegetables to ripen because it's record cool temperatures for this summer. In parts of Argentina, it's colder right now than it is in Antarctica. Meanwhile, you look a little further away in Moscow, it's the hottest it's been in 1,000 years. They're expecting 15,000 deaths from this heat and maybe costing $15 billion and maybe even more than that if some of the wildfires actually reach some of these sensitive nuclear sites. In a lot of ways we are helpless, but in some ways we are not. And I know you look at what the government is doing and how there are judges overturning decisions and the White House and Congress saying, well, we don't care what those people voted for. We're going to do what we do anyway. And I know, there's that. But I hope you believe that you can make a difference and that you won't be quiet, that you will yell and yell loudly to the people who need to hear you, that you will let your feelings be known in the ballot box, because I think come November there's going to be some big changes, and I hope you're part of the change for the good. That's real hope. All right, the answer to the brain stretcher question for today. Number one thing women said they wanted, sleep. They could just use a few hours of sleep. And I hope they get it. And if you sleep on it, sleep on some of these things too. And please don't wake up thinking you don't have a choice and that you are helpless. I know there are people pulling a lot of strings and making a lot of decisions, but we can be stronger and bigger and better than that. See you next time.